Sure.
Kgate ke bo rutile gore motho a monna sentse a tsoge vroeg, right? So as we mentioned, we're talking all things bullying and what it looks like. Phetogo Malapane, she is an assistant principal, social services and counselor at Spark Rivonia High. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on Power Up, Phetogo.
Good morning, Kea, and the Power FM team and all the Power Up listeners. Thank you so much for having me and giving me the opportunity to share on this platform today.
So let's start with this, with the perspective on how bullying has evolved in the last decade, especially with the rise of social media, and of course, we're always constantly connected.
Yeah, bullying today looks so much different from many of us can remember when we were children. Years ago, it used to be mostly the physical one, pushing, teasing, name calling, and all that. But now we found ourselves in a digital space where we have phones and social media, and it's becoming harder today because there's somebody spreading rumors about you on social media, somebody excluding you, saying hurtful words about you, even creating memes about you. So it has become so much tougher because now it has such emotional impact on
our young ones.
And our young ones as well.
Yeah.
Now they have to go home with that.
Yeah. So we just mentioned that it's really transformed. It's evolved from what it was back in the day in terms of pushing that aggressiveness and all of that. But what are some non-physical forms of bullying that you think that most of us are not aware of, or we just overlook them as well?
That's such an important question because we often overlook things such as being excluded from the group, those little subtle jokes that target somebody's looks, their background, or the way they speak. We overlook online exclusion as well, leaving somebody out of a group chat or using inside jokes to make somebody feel small. It doesn't look dramatic, but it always has a really bad effect on a child's sense of belonging.
So cyberbullying has now become one of the most prevalent forms of harassment in our new age. How have online spaces, from WhatsApp groups to TikTok comment sections, really changed the dynamics of bullying as a whole?
It has truly changed it so much because it involves the emotional bullying as well, right?
Yeah.
Those exclusions and those jokes, and you see a child being just so withdrawn because, our children are always on social media. So it has really changed that because it's so subtle, but also it can become so big, at the same time because one little share can just spread all around.
And then from your counseling experience, Phetogo, how do these less visible forms of bullying really impact a learner's mental health, their self-esteem, but also self-esteem also trickles into their academic focus?
So you see a scholar becoming more and more anxious. They have so much anxiety, low self-esteem, mostly trust issues. They're unable to trust people. Young people carry the feeling that they're not good enough, even years later into their lives. You see an academic decline, right? You see a lot of scholars going into the sick bay. They're often sick. And you ask yourself what's happening, but this is then the effect of the bullying.
Okay. And, we always talk about people being kind to one another, to be compassionate amongst one another and all of that, practicing empathy, really, to be specific. And another thing that we also need to talk about is emotional intelligence. And these are often cited as tools to hopefully prevent bullying. But what are some practical steps that educators and parents can take to nurture these traits in their young people?
So I believe that it starts with the culture. So in schools, we need to be actively teaching our children empathy and kindness. Oftentimes when you take a child to school, you just want to develop their IQ, right? But we need to also develop their emotional intelligence. At Spark schools, we have a social emotional curriculum called Character Quotient. It plays a vital role in developing our scholars' character. Through that, they learn to build their emotional intelligence, understanding and managing their own emotions, and also emphasizing how to treat others as well.
Okay.
So I think that also as parents, we should be able to talk openly about kindness and inclusion with our children.
So we do find that sometimes that a lot of people, or let me say the bullier, the person who does the bullying, could be facing bullying at home. How do we now address that issue in terms of when this person comes to school, and we need to get into the deeper issue as to what is really going on?
So it's very important that our children and our families understand counseling and therapy, seeking for help. And there you're able to find out what the root cause of the problem is with this child. It's important to also include families, have a family-centered therapeutic sessions where you try to make them understand what this child is going through and hence why they've become the bullier, and assist them from there.
And then what role do bystanders play in either stopping or sustaining bullying? And how can we empower peers to speak up safely? Because we always say that it seems like there's more bad happening in this world, but there's actually more. I believe there's more good happening in this world. But the fact that there's a majority of us that keep quiet when the bad is happening. Like, what role do we play by just standing by and watching things happen?
I always tell my scholars that they need to be allies, right? As a community, we need to create a safe space where young people feel that they belong, where they're speaking up and they're encouraged and celebrated. So we need to model respect as well. But not only that, we need to stand up to what we see is happening and literally say, no, that is not okay. Yeah.
And how do we do that? So I'm feeling scared. I'm a bystander. I want to do something. Do I just start? Do I just say stop? Because here I am amongst let me say 20 people, right?
Yeah.
And I'm scared. I'm scared for what could be done against me. Maybe it will turn against me as well. What do I do just to feel safe, but also help someone else?
It starts with the reporting. Reporting is very important. If you're feeling scared to stand up against that, find somebody that you can report to, us as school counselors or your teachers or even parents. They're able to connect with the school, report what is happening. But if you keep quiet about it, then it's going to be a whole cycle that's not going to stop.
There's going to be a whole cycle that's definitely not going to stop. So we finally mark Anti-Bullying Week. What message would you like to share to learners and parents and educators just about creating environments that are both online and offline, where kindness and inclusion become the norm and not the exception?
Well, I'd just like to say that to anyone who's been bullied, you are not what they said about you. You're brave for showing up each and every day. Just please reach out. There are adults and friends who are truly caring about you and want to help you. And to anybody who stood by, like you said, it's never too late to be an ally. Even one small act of kindness, a message, a smile, standing beside somebody can make a huge difference. So I believe that together we can create schools where everybody feels safe, feels seen, valued.
Yeah. Okay. Petojo, thank you so much for your time today. Wishing you nothing but the best with everything that you do with your scholars at Spark Rivonia High, and obviously your work as well as a social services and counselor as well. We truly appreciate your time.